Welcome to my Python presentation. My name is B. Raghuram from CSC AMLC section. Today we are going to learn about namespaces. Namespaces in Python. A namespace is a system that has a unique name for each and every object in Python. An object might be a variable or a method. Python itself maintains a namespace in the form of a Python dictionary. That is namespaces in Python definition. Explanation of namespace in Python. Let's go through an example. A directory file system structure in computers. Needless to say that one can have multiple directories having a file with the same name inside every directory. But one can get directed to the file one wishes just by specifying the absolute path to the file. Real-time example. The role of a namespace is like a surname. One might not find a single Alice in the class. There might be multiple Alice. But when you particularly ask for Alice Lee or Alice Clark with a surname, there will be one. Time being, don't think of both first name and surname are same for multiple students. On similar lines, the Python interpreter understands what exact method or variable one is trying to point to in the code, depending upon the namespace. So the division of word itself gives a little more information upon the namespace. So the division of the word itself gives a little more information. Its name, which means name, a unique identifier plus space which takes something related to scope. Here, a name might be of anything Python method, any Python method or variable, and space depends upon the location from trying to access a variable or a method. Type of namespaces. When Python interpreters run solely without any user-defined modules, methods, classes, etc., some functions like print, id are always present. These are built-in namespaces. When a user creates a module, a global namespace gets created. Later, the creation of local functions create the local namespace. The built-in namespace encompasses the global namespace and the global namespace encompasses the local namespace. The image shown below is the representation of the local namespace and global namespace in built-in namespace. So there are three types of namespaces in conclusion: built-in, global, and local namespace. Here we have an example of namespace variables. X is equals to 1 is considered as global namespace variable, and within it exist two local namespace variables. One is in function and other one is in for loop, which will be x is equals to 10, y is equals to 20, or in for loop x is equals to 100 and y is equals to 200. When Python interpreter runs solely without any user-defined modules, methods, classes, etc., some functions like print, id are always present. They are built-in namespaces. When a user creates a module, a global namespace gets created. Later, the creation of local function creates the local namespace. The built-in namespace encompasses the global namespace and the global namespace encompasses the local namespace. Here we have the lifetime of a namespace. Lifetime of a namespace depends upon the scope of object. If the scope of object ends, the lifetime of the namespace comes to an end. Hence, it is not possible to access the inner namespace's object from an outer namespace. Here we have the example for it. Variable 1 is equals to 5 is an global namespace, and then within function variable 2 is equals to 6 is an local namespace. And then again we have nested local namespace, which will be variable 3 is equals to 7. Here we have pictorial representation of namespace 1, namespace 2, and namespace 3. In namespace 1 we have variable 1, variable 2, variable 3. And namespace 2 we have variable 4, variable 5, variable 6, and namespace 3 we have variable 1, variable 4, and variable 7. But in some cases, one might be interested in updating or processing global variables only. As shown in the following example, one should mark it explicitly as global and the update or process. Note that the line count is equals to count plus 1 references the global variable and therefore uses a global variable. But compare this to the same line can count is equals to 1. Then the line global count is absolutely needed according to scope rules. Thank you and hope you have understood about namespaces in Python, and thank you for listening to my presentation. Hope you have a good day.